and for the record, a difficult for the active listener listen. Adjudicated by ear, adduced by caption, this is the quaking voice of the week in review.
Episode 8. The man with the randomly erased mind was called before the king, who had heard of this miraculous man, returned from wandering hitherto unknown parts of his majesty's kingdom, and now wandered the hills and healed shepherds with lonely hearts and village girls with trinkets of stone from a magical quarry. The man appeared before the king, and the king asked him to perform some miraculous act, such as turning his staff into a snake. "Ah," said the man, "but that would just be showing off." There was a moment of silence, and the minister who had brought the man before the king stepped forward as if to remove this oaf from the sight of royalty. Then, like thunder crashing in the mighty, open, arid valleys of a magic land, the king's laugh burst forth, and his entire household commenced to a night of incredible rejoicing, complete with the mysterious New World man, as he was called by the shouts that urged him on throughout the night to greater and greater feats of verbal, physical, and psychological dexterity. He recited poetry in unknown languages and told stories concerning the lake cities of the Gulf of the New World, and made all the ladies undress from the waist up to play the court of the volcano god. Even the queen showed her breasts that night.
discovery of this novelty, I dare say this performance, to the fortunate conjunction of a mirror shard and a soily mound of unrecycled, usable, freshly unearthed from the last century. I am told the digger who discovered the magnetic backpack mopped her brow and stared in disbelief at what the human beings of another time referred to as a computer hard drive, and what is more generally described today as simply another plastic artifact. And that digger might have sold her still initialized discovery for scrap, if not for the fading words written in black script on the side that read, "Genius is always kinetic, never frenetic, unapologetic, never frenetic." She gathered these words meant the information content of the box was worth more than the chemical content, and thus she bypassed the rendering plant and contacted the Paleolinguistic Electro-Disencryption Laboratory in San Jose, California, where the very fact that today we more firmly than ever before in the history of data see value in this kind of found material is said to have originated. None today dispute the crucial role both researchers and theorists at San Jose have played in ensuring that the social significance manifested in the detritus of a bygone age is not only properly recovered by skilled archaeologists, but considered as valuable insight by amateurs as well. This change of consciousness becomes more important if this kind of digital samsebyaizdat is to have a future as the object of a philological discourse. The initializer of this singular specimen of the first generation of mass-produced computerized hard drives, its brand name appears to have been PL80, the manufacturer, some extinct organization called PLI, seems to have understood before many of his contemporaries the theories so elegantly synthesized at San Jose. But his is not an obvious prophetic power. Rather, this performance novelty, this partisan novel, part dedicatory elegy, part allegorical drama, part autobiographical poem, finds itself lost in its own current, as the author himself appears to have realized early on in the narrative. Of course, the text presented here has been randomly and quite drastically edited, first and foremost by the natural deterioration of time. The original must have been an orgasmic rush of prose, like the medieval manuscripts bequeathed to us by generational teams of anonymous monks or nuns. Yet, this narrative stubbornly asserts itself as the work of one lone individual, written in the first person as it is for most of its length. From initial reports out of the San Jose laboratories, a team of electronophilological technicians have already succeeded in recovering up to 16% of the data once inscribed by this unknown poet. He wrote a considerable amount of prose. There is residue suggesting another long project that seems to have been erased sometime during a century of storage in the aforementioned soil. In addition, about 70 short stories, all previously unknown and each exceedingly difficult to comprehend and startlingly different from the others, in both perspective and content, are now extant. There is also anecdotal evidence of several more novels, but only this sizable fragment survives to the present day.
As soon as someone asks me to say a line, this is why I'm a poet and not an actor. I realized this quite young. I cannot act for shit, but I can cause a riot through my actions, which are words. Your reaction elicits the proper response. Your horror is quite understood. As Lisa's summer dress is stained with the calico cat's blood. You've two plausible reactions, as the language of psychology attests. The complacency of indifference or fear of the blood on the dress. We'd better not tell Sarah, Lisa winks with a grin, as she tears off the tail and eats the furry skin. Your stomach finds the ground when Lisa's teeth meet tiny bone. And upon hearing your disapproval, she assumes a different tone. John Paul Potter Jones, she manages between bites of cat. What's wrong with you? Why are you staring at me like that? You hesitate, but then it comes. Huh? What? Oh, nothing, dear. It's just that Sarah's cat, you know, eating it. Doesn't that strike you as a little queer? Liza drops the cat and flops upon the ground. Spitting out a mouthful, she attempts a feeble sound. You just don't understand, John Paul Potter Jones. Sarah's cat was my pet too, and I want to eat his bones. We are of and from conquered peoples, galloping and rearing back like those other New World European imports, the tens of thousands of wild horses of the Great Basin. We are of and from conquistadors and slaves and servants, conquering the next weakest people in their naked and frightening run. Now, generations removed, can we tell by the eyes the difference between brutalizers and brutalized? And that's the week in review. For the man in front of me with cans on his head, Mr. Jody Schaible, this is Max Sympathy, the best poet east of the street east of me now.